you're hoping not to be offended today, this video is not your place. Alright, so because in the absence of context or general interest, I don't know who might be watching these videos, I think it's important that we install some baseline definitions. Red pill, blue pill, and black pill. Some of you are familiar with these terms, some of you have overdosed on these pills, but these terms have serious socio-psychological weight to the discussion we're having today. The red pill refers to a destabilization, right? One is introduced to a reality divergent from the accustomed norm. Your perspective is often radically transformed. The blue pill refers to something analogous to burying your head in the sand, okay? You are stubborn, okay? You refuse to dispense any regard, affect, or influence to any understanding of reality divergent from the one you are comfortable with. And to some limitation, you live in this comfortable delusion. The house essentially is burning and you are more concerned about watering your daisies, okay? The black pill refers to a fatalist set of beliefs that damns one to not only a skepticism framing the importance of an ideal, but the existence of an ideal altogether. Ideal freedom, ideal fairness, ideal justice, and more importantly, ideal relationships, especially on a sexual level. This skepticism will often devolve to violence in the frustration that such an ideal will never color their real life experience, yet it seems to unfairly make brighter the experience and performance of their peers. Okay, so we're talking about pills here. When it comes to those most susceptible to, say, overdose or addiction, we are usually referring to heterosexual males, though not exclusively, just predominantly. Consequently, a number of very interesting ideas surrounding religion, the acquiring of wealth, and women have emerged and been popularized by figures like the Tate brothers. Today, I'm going to explain to you why it might cost you more to keep listening to these ideas if you choose to, because you can. I can't stop you. I'm just a random girl on the internet. What I'm saying is, rehab is not cheap. So let's get started. So number one, women and relationships. There are two prevailing streams of thought that I want to address here, and they are targeted to heterosexual males, but not because I want them to be, simply because these ideas have been marketed to this sect of individuals. Firstly, that the more sexual partners you've had, the more attractive you are. And secondly, the less emotionally available you are, the more attractive you are. And here's the thing. I think after talking to a few guys, I kind of understand the logic, right? The more sexual partners, superficially, is correlative to higher desirability and higher status associated esteem, at least on a social level. Higher emotionality is deemed as the weaker trait simply because a man's physical advantage is, again, superficially, more deterministic of his mortal safety.
Don't never be vulnerable in front of your woman. First of all, let's get that out the way. Never be vulnerable in front of your woman because she will leave you. Because she will leave you.
Okay, can I say something?
Because she will leave you and she will not respect you.
What am I saying? If a beast barges into your house, you can't talk it out of its feelings. If a dragon wants to kill you, it will. I'm going to tell you why I disagree though. I'm going to try to afford as much sympathy as possible to these arguments because it's not like they don't make sense. I think the problem a lot of people have with these arguments is that they dispense too carelessly with the sociological context and the historical urgency, demands, and expectations burdened on male-female relationships in variable historical contexts. Our needs, our experiences, and our priorities as a society change literally by the decade. Think about the time when conservative ideals more critically necessitated the survival of a family unit, a time of war, limited literacy distributed to the middle to lower income bracket, possibly wolves, bears, dragons barging into your cottage at ungodly hours of the night, right? It was a very different context, but also self-control.
Men with higher body counts are more likely to cheat. Men with higher body counts are more likely to get divorced. Men with higher body counts are less likely to be satisfied in their marriages. Though that's the suite of results that we're seeing in these studies. It's also showing those things for women, but conveniently these kind of red pill freaks are like, oh, you know, it's women, women, women.
Self-control is attractive because it prevents against a certain volatility and exposure to danger that threatens not just the relationship, but the partners within that dynamic. An unhealthy frequency as it pertains to sexual engagement, often with multiple partners, often rotating within familiar circles, tells me personally, whether you're a man or a woman, that you give too indiscriminately to your primal urges. You are not thinking with precision and cautiousness as a human with advanced faculties is expected to. Dedicating oneself with any indication of imbalance to any carnally stimulating activity with increased risk for the increased number of partners, especially because of sexual disease transfer, tells me that you're not evaluating your investment return strategy, especially as it pertains to relationships, or at the very least in a way that will most guarantee the safety of your health, the safety of your future children. Just too many factors that it seems you're not taking into critical consideration, because we're not talking about the emotional side, we're not talking about possible sexual shame, we're not talking about purity culture, we're not talking about any of those inhibiting factors. We're talking about the reality that increasing partners with increased risk means that you are progressively operating at a loss. And if that doesn't seem to be clicking for you, again, male or female, I'm concerned. Because people looking for relationships, at least I do, often operate on self-preservation. It's not just a thing of, oh, they, sleep around or whatever, and that makes me feel some type of way. It's a thing of, okay, if I'm going to consider this person as a possible sexual partner, am I going to be safe? If you can understand this stream of argument, then I think comprehending the male emotionality side of things should come actually quite naturally.
The happiest dude in the room, ask him how he's doing, for real. A lot of people don't ask me because to the point that I'm always happy, I'm laughing, I'm always.
When any human being, male or female, displays emotional volatility, the same assumption that one is not thinking critically and exhaustively about their decisions is maintained. Because as people, we are observers. Anyone can see when your emotions, which are inconsistent, become your consistent default. There is no security in affording dependabilities to an unreliable partner like that. Why? Because if I give you something important to do and some crisis happens, I know you're always going to default to your emotions, and your emotions are unstable. Your emotions aren't going to guarantee the safety of something important. And so I just can't be sure that the most important things to me will be safe in your care. And that is critical. That insecurity is the source of why it is unattractive. The problem now with an unemotional disposition is that the planes are reversed. Let me explain. Guys, this applies to me, this applies to you, this applies to everyone. Just because the macro environment that we live in, our external surroundings, the industries we operate in, the world around us, just because that context is unsympathetic, doesn't mean you always need to be.
Considered suicide? Yes. Yes, I have. Yes, I have considered it. First time I felt like killing myself was when I was 6. And it's kind of just been a thing.
From weather dynamics to the hormonal mercurialness that is human beings, the appropriate response to an urgent need is variable. If you are stoic all the time, or you maintain one emotional complexion for every situation, because you are afraid of being vulnerable with your partner, when they tell you, hey, you are emotionally unavailable, they're actually saying that you're not useful. And do you see what I'm saying though? Like, your solution to a crisis, because you can't adapt emotionally to the required need, hinders instead of helps. That's why it's unattractive. A man or woman, and trust me, I've seen it with my own eyes, is very much capable of crying and within the same breath putting a crisis to bed because they are emotionally responsible, not emotionally unstable. There is a difference, and the misconception is that expressing one's emotional vulnerability within an appropriate context assumes emotional instability. And that's just not always the case. I think the key, and full transparency, I'm learning this myself, it's emotional regulation, because that communicates maturity. That tells someone that you are responsible with the way you can manage yourself and you're adaptable to crisis situations. So yeah, moving on. Wealth.
Girl goes to me, so what's your job? How do you have all this money? I said, bitch, I'm a pimp.
This next section applies indiscriminately to men and women, and I know that the sentiments I express here will not be popular with everyone. To some extent, I'm okay with that, and to the remaining extent, I'm willing to extend my deepest disdain. A lot of men and women aren't particularly pressed about what their partner has done to reach a certain level of wealth. You're probably a little bit naive, if not ignorant, if you don't recognize that there are very few ethical avenues to reach the top 10, 15, 5% of global income earners. But that's the partner everybody wants to be. And if not that, then that's the partner everyone wants. Which is unsurprising. It's hardly controversial. And the business world is cutthroat. I'm not saying that you need to be nice, goody two-shoes, and navigating your way to the top, right? That's not what I'm saying. You can't do that. They'll step all over you. When you are cracking multi-million-dollar deals with the industry's most protected, most vile, and most notorious sex traffickers, for whatever reason, whether it be securing capital, securing loyalty, securing your financial esteem within the industry, and you expect me as your partner to turn a blind eye and pretend it doesn't exist for the safety of our family, our children, protecting you, protecting our name. With all due respect, you are so far out of your mind. Most wives, children, husbands don't care what their family members in powerful positions, it could be in a church, it could be in a school, it could be in an oil company, have done to achieve the wealth that they have, right? And that's fine, they can choose not to care. It just won't be me. I do not mince words when I say that I could be your ride or die wife. I could be your ride or die friend. Once I find out, you will not just become the ex I no longer find politically palatable, okay? You become my enemy. I say this because I'm seeing a lot of interesting ideas advertised to my generation as ways to quickly make money, as ways to quickly find yourself within the top 5% of global income earners. And it is propagated that if you are willing to do anything, if your ambitious spirit is insatiable, that you are more attractive. To me, I'm speaking fully for myself. To me, you're obsessed, you're enslaved. And depending on what you do, your compromise might land you in more than just bad graces with me. I'm not going to stand by your side just because we're supposed to be ride or die, or because you're my best friend, or because we said some vows. I'm not going to have your back on certain things. And I know that some people possibly viewing this video also share that sentiment. There are not many of us, but we do. It's unattractive. Yeah, moving on. Religion. There is another idea I'm seeing perpetuated, and that is that finding religion makes you more attractive. And hear me out, I'm not saying that it doesn't.
A lot of this rise of like going towards religion in order to like reinstate traditional values, do you think it's genuine, like these people actually want to follow all aspects of that religion, or you think it's just about trying to gain more control over women? What do you think?
Yeah, what I am saying is that it exposes you. It strips with such an unsympathetic eye that the weight of your conduct, your decisions, the way that you navigate yourself within whatever industry it is that you're operating in, assumes a heaviness that a lot of converts don't recognize, or at least don't anticipate at the time of their conversion. Why do I say this? Well, it's easier, and you will generally live a less scrutinized lifestyle the less religious you are. Religion makes painfully explicit certain bars, certain forbiddencies, certain standards that an atheistic mindset will not recognize. And a lot of these constraints are actually offensive. You are expected by those within that understanding to represent the ideology with blameless consistency. And if you don't, no, even worse, if you distort the ideas prescribed within that sect in order to justify certain actions and ideas you're not willing to dispense with.
It's okay for a man to sleep with X amount of women, but when it comes to a woman, and excuse me for using this term, if she has a high body count, then this is not something that is praiseworthy. This movement now glorifies and venerates a man sleeping around, and he's considered masculine. He's considered a man, someone who's progressive, someone who's doing well, right? We are not in need of these movements, and that is simply because Al-Islam is so perfect.
Your hypocrisy is so bright, it's almost nauseating. And in the way you continue to behave, in the actions and ideas you continue to perpetuate, you taint the esteem of that particular group with such disregard. Suddenly, all the not so great parts about your character are exposed. See what I mean when I say you're naked, you're out in the open. Religion is such a powerful exposer, and that's why I say it doesn't always make you seem more attractive. And I'm bringing this up simply because this is what red pill enthusiasts fail to tell you, that this is the mantle you will need to carry in expressing your allegiance to a certain faith, to a certain religion, whatever that faith happens to be. All right, that's everything. Thanks for joining me. I hope to see you next time. Make sure to like, subscribe. Cheers and goodbye.